Speaker. Mr Speaker, to the Minister of Finance, how much does Treasury forecast inflation will rise in the year to March 2011, and what policy changes will contribute to this rise?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, in Budget 2010, Treasury forecast inflation at 5.9% in the year to March. However, June quarter inflation of just 0.3% was well below their quarterly forecast of 0.7%. As a result, Treasury is now expecting inflation to peak close to the Reserve Bank's forecast of 5.4%. The member will be familiar with the one-off factors: 2.5% increase in GST, more than compensated for by tax cuts, a rise in tobacco excise, which the opposition supported, and a rise in an amended emissions trading system which adds only half the price increase of the version that the Labor Party supported.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Speaker, on the back of inflation greater than 5% next year, is he concerned that today's increase in the OCR will add further pressure to stretched family budgets, struggling to stay on top of price increases in food, petrol and power affected by his ETS, and of course more GST on everything?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, it's a bit rich to hear the Labor Party going on about the price impact of the ETS when their scheme was precisely double the impact of the government one.
Point of order, the Honourable David
Speaker,
Cunliffe.
the Minister has no responsibility for Labor Party policy.
Well, order, a point of order. Now, I say to the Honourable Paula Bennett that when the Speaker's on his feet, well, first, when a point of order is being called, do not continue interjecting. Now, the dilemma I have in pulling the Minister up is that the member in asking his question talked about the ETS scheme of this government. And given that, I can't stop, once the member introduces that into his question, I can't stop the Minister reflecting then on the changes from the ETS scheme introduced by the previous government. I can't realistically stop the Minister doing that. So the remedy's in members' own hands when they ask their questions. The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, I didn't finish my answer.
Finish your answer? OK.
Yeah. Mr Speaker, the fact is that a family will be, after the 1st of October, $25 a week better off after GST. And secondly, somehow that member's party got inflation to 5.1% in 2008 with no compensation for anything.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Can the Minister explain to New Zealanders who will face increasing mortgage payments why the economy is strong enough to raise interest rates but not to lift their wages and salaries as fast as Australia, when that was his government's #1 promise to New Zealanders?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, that's a question the member should direct to the Governor of the Reserve Bank, and I'm surprised he didn't know that that's who sets the overnight cash rate.
Aaron Gilmore.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Supplementary question to the Minister. Has he seen any reports on how current inflation compares with recent years?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, in the years up to 2008, inflation was regularly above 3% and peaked at 5.1% in the year to September 2008. No one got compensation. I might also point out that while the official cash rate today has gone to 3%, it peaked in 2008 at 8.25%, and first mortgage and floating mortgage rates were almost 11%. And that was on the back of electricity price increases of 72% in the 9 years to 2008. So if anyone knows about inflation, it's the Labor Party, and they know how to push it up.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
It's a shame the Minister didn't major in economics rather than history. Mr Speaker, given today's increase in the OCR, together with a fall in business and consumer confidence and concern from the Reserve Bank Governor and economists, which is true, that the recovery is aggressive, as John Key has said, or bumpy, as he has just told the House?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, I think the consensus view is pretty much as I said earlier on, and that is in an economy that is trying to deleverage, that is trying to reduce debt, in a world that is trying to reduce debt, New Zealand is going through a fairly orderly transition to a fairly orderly transition to a world where we live within our means. We've been able to do that with relatively respectable growth, as the Governor of the Reserve Bank has said, at 3%, and unemployment down now around 7.5%. We would hope, of course, to make faster progress than that if possible.
Question number 5, Jonathan Young.